Experience the Silver Lake sand dunes like never before on our one-of-a-kind 40-minute dune tour. We will let you out at Lake Michigan for a quick visit and then drive to one of the tallest dunes on the Silver Lake side for pics and enjoying the view.
Now, as you can see, we're gonna have to get across this little bridge here to get up onto the dunes. Now, we call it Termite Bridge because the bridge is made out of wood, and just as you would suspect, loaded with termites. Yeah. And I can see that you're frightened. Yeah, but you don't have to worry, okay? We are probably not going to go crashing through the bridge into the raging waters below. Yeah, because we've designed a technique that's going to lighten the load up enough so that we can get safely across. Okay, but I do need your help. So as we pull up to the bridge, I need you to take a deep breath, okay? As we get on the bridge, just let it all out. And whatever you do, don't take another breath until we're safely across the other side. Are we ready?
Yes.
All right, let's give it a try. Here we go. All right, deep breath. Okay, let it all out. Here we go. Hey, a few people like to wear hats on the rides, right? Well, of course, that's what happens when you drive out here on the sand, and in the windy days, you lose hats. And so, of course, this is what we like to call the lost and not found.
Oh.
Yeah, and you can see people lose even more stuff than their hats. There's shoes down there and an umbrella. Apparently somebody took an umbrella on the ride with them. So hold on to your things. That's the message we're getting here, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look at a bald eagle, guys, flying across right here.
They lost their shoes. They have
See it?
Yeah.
That's a good omen right there. Yeah. Now, from up here, you can see a pretty big chunk of the 1,800 acres of sand that we have here at Silver Lake, and all of them are owned by the state of Michigan now. So this is all part of the Silver Lake State Park up here. And the state's actually divided these dunes up into 3 different sections for you guys to use. So if you look way to the north, you might see a few vehicles zipping around over there today, but the rain might have scared a few people off. But the very north end of the dunes is what we call the ORV, or off-road vehicle area. And that's where people take their own vehicles or rent one here in Silver Lake and drive them around on the dunes all by themselves over on the north side. Yep. And then we have this section right here that's now leased by Macwoods from the state, so that we're allowed to drive our Dune scooters out here on these trails that we've made for you. And we are the only ones allowed to drive on this section of the dunes. Now, in between the two vehicle areas, there's still a big part of the dunes that's been set aside just for people to hike on and explore, and we call that the pedestrian area. No vehicles allowed. So, yes, if you wanted to, you could actually hike from Silver Lake all the way over to Lake Michigan, right on that pedestrian area. And it's only about 1.5 miles from lake to lake and takes about 10 days.
I was gonna say.
Maybe not today with all this wet sand. You could run right across there probably today. But now, does anybody know what we're supposed to do when we go down a big hill on a dune ride? That's right. Put your hands up and yell right now. You don't have to worry. This is not the biggest hill on the ride. This is what we like to think of as our test hill. So this is your test to see if you're ready for the bigger hills later in the ride. Are we ready?
Yes.
All right, let's see. Here we go.
Camera. Put the camera in the back.
Hands up! Now this little section of the dunes right here has a bunch of old pine stumps on it. Now they tell us these are left over from when this area was logged off back in the late 1800s. So these stumps have been out here for way over 100 years on these dunes. Wow. You'll see stumps like these all throughout the area, and they're really just reminders that at one time there were a lot more trees out here than what we have right now. here is one of the few that I've never seen dry all the way up out here on the dunes. Yeah, the natives call that Lake Wee Wee right there for some reason. And there's Lake Michigan over there on your right.
Oh, some good waves. The Michigan.
Now, if you've seen a map of Michigan, you may have noticed that about halfway up the west coastline here, there are 2 points that come out into the lake. And we're actually on the south.
Wow, look at that. Woo! Oh my
Now, if you're like me, a little bit afraid of heights, just do what I do here and close your eyes. This hill goes by really fast, right? Here we go, hands up!
Go, go, go.
Silver Lake out there in front of us.
Wow.
Yep. Lake Michigan, back where we left it, about 1.5 miles away. Now this is a good spot to talk about how the wind moves the sand around out here at Silver Lake, because it's always amazing to think that every grain of sand you're looking at out here actually had to come from the beach area on Lake Michigan at one time.
Wow.
And it didn't start there. This sand has actually been brought down the shoreline by wave action, and then blown inland off the beaches by the prevailing winds, which you're feeling right now. This wind out of the northwest is the most common wind direction. And you can see how over the years that wind has been blowing sand inland. And of course, poor Silver Lake is right in the way of these moving dunes. Now, there are spots on the lake that they tell us still fill in as much as 6 to 10 feet a year. So it's a good thing you guys came when you did. Next summer, Silver Lake's gonna be a little bit smaller. And believe it or not, there's several cottages and even a road that used to come partway around the lake here, completely covered with sand now. Yeah. And even now, the cottage on the very end has to haul sand away all the time to keep their cottage from going under too. So yeah, probably not a good idea to buy a cottage over in that corner of the lake. You probably should rent first if I were you, yeah. Because that sand is eventually gonna catch up to them, yeah. So we do have another big hill coming up right here behind me. And just like that last one, I do need to stop just a second before I go down that so I can prepare myself, okay? So
What is the red flag?
that just, we can see it from the shop over there.
Okay.
That road over there at the bottom of it is where we started from.
Oh, I see.
So it just tells us how windy it is up here.
I see.
Hands up! Here we go! So if you haven't been down to see that, I'll show you how to get down there on our way back. Right now, there is a big Sobble Point as well to the north of us up by the Ludington area. And sometimes I've even heard this referred to as the Narrows of Lake Michigan, because from here to Wisconsin is only about 60 miles. From what I could find, this is the closest point between Wisconsin and Michigan in the Lower Peninsula, right here off our beaches, which is super important in case you ever want to swim across, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this would be the spot you'd want to try it, yeah. Yeah. Now, it's been done several times, but last summer I got the courage up to try that swim myself, and I'm telling you what, you know, I consider myself a pretty strong distance swimmer, but I got myself about 30 miles out before I realized I was never going to make it across. Ended up having to swim back. Yeah, it was really disappointing, so I wouldn't recommend it. All right, let's go check out the beach. Stop here for about 5-10 minutes. You guys can check out the beach. If you'd like me to take a picture of your group, I'd be happy to help you with that. And if you need to use the restrooms, they're located over here, here, and here.
Very pretty.
Now this is our wildlife area out here on the dunes, and of course we call it that because this is where the drivers hang out after work, right over here. You can imagine, but we do have a few wild animals that'll join us out here once in a while. Typical Michigan animals though, so we'll see our white-tailed deer, fox, coyotes, turkeys, camels, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, we don't get to see them very often during the day. I think they kind of hear us coming or something. But yeah, we'll see a lot of tracks out here though, especially in the morning if the wind or rain hasn't covered them up. So we know they're out here. They just do a pretty good job of hiding from us during the day. Yeah. I do like to talk a little bit about the plants, because you've probably noticed This is kind of a harsh environment for most plants to grow in with all this moving sand, but there are a few that do a pretty good job of it. And one of them are these trees up here. Now these are mostly cottonwood trees, very common here in the Midwest, but they grow nicely out here on the dune.
Wow.
So even though it looks like a bunch of little trees on this ridge, you're really seeing just the very tops of pretty tall trees, mostly covered with sand. Yep. Any questions about the plants or animals out here before we move on? No? Now this is our last stop up on the dunes, and I wanted to talk a little bit about something neat that happens out here if we have a thunderstorm that crosses the dune area. So if lightning strikes the sand out here, it will actually heat it up hot enough to melt it. And this dune sand out here at Silver Lake will melt into kind of a grayish glass-like material that we call a fulgurite. Usually takes some sort of a tube-like shape. And you can find them out here on the dunes. After a windy day, might uncover them from where they've been melted into the sand. Yeah. But you don't have to worry about hiking all over the dunes though to see one of these fulgurites, because the Wood family's been driving their dune scooters out here for 94 years this summer. And one of their hobbies is to look for these fulgurites. So they do have some of the biggest ones that we've found over the years on display back in the gift shop. So you can check them out when we get back. And if you like what you see, come out and look for them yourself, right? There you go. Any questions at all before we head off the dunes? No? Big spider, watch out right there in the tree. All right, we are going to have to go back across Termite Bridge, so let me back it up so we get a little run at it here. didn't make it. Somebody must not let all their breath out. Oh well, as long as we're stuck here a second, I'll tell you about this channel. This is actually the outlet right here for Silver Lake. So this is Silver Lake water flowing underneath us here. It actually goes all the way out to Lake Michigan if you follow it to the west. Now we call this Silver Creek, and it actually doubles as my complaint department. So if you have any complaints about my driving, then you can exit to the right or the left right here.
I don't want to canoe out here.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can come from Silver Lake, but there's a dam about a quarter of a mile down here, so you can't go. You can't really get past the dam. The water's not that deep. So, and this is the road right here that'll take you out to the lighthouse that we talked about earlier. It's about 1.5 miles from Mac Woods out to the lighthouse, and they do have tours now where you can actually climb to the top of that. Take pictures up there. It's kind of fun.
Thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.